On this episode of the podcast, we're going to be looking at another topic and relating it to Gurbani. This topic is around buying a house. I was in the sauna the other day and a gentleman struck up a conversation around how he was already in a large detached house in the area, but he was looking to move to an area around 10 minutes down the road, which would mean he was closer to shops. Now, this is a very benign conversation, and it's probably a thought that's crossed a lot of our minds. Maybe we should upgrade, maybe we should get a house with a bigger garden, a house with an extra bedroom. And there's lots of times where functionally you need more space, or you might feel like you need more space, or you might feel like you need certain amenities which are understandable. But this presentation is going to be about how that desire never for anyone gets quenched. So my story is I wasn't always a practicing Sikh. I grew up in a more Punjabi family where we would eat, drink and be merry and that type of stuff. And at the age of 18, I started looking at spirituality and studying different religions. And I started practicing meditation, found Sangat, and slowly have started my journey. So he wanted a house with a private drive and to be closer to shops. So I looked up the best street supposedly in UK and apparently one of the best places to live in the whole world. And I looked up a house on that street. And what I found was for 30 million, you can buy a house or a flat in Kensington Palace Gardens. Now, the reason I looked this up was because when I went through the photos of this house, I thought, well, it doesn't have a swimming pool. It doesn't have its own garden. It doesn't have lots of things like the privacy of not living in a flat, of having no neighbors. So regardless of where you live, regardless of if you have a mansion by the beach somewhere, there's always going to be the potential for you to look at what someone else has and want that. And if we reflect on the people that we know who are really affluent, they aren't necessarily happy. And even though they may look very happy on the outside, you don't know what that person's mental state is and how well they sleep and how happy they are on the inside and how much contentment they experience. And contentment doesn't come from physical possessions, and the science backs this up. There's even research on lottery winners, which is fascinating, and how many of them go on to regret ever winning the lottery, which I'd urge you to look into because it's very interesting. So Gurbani classes wealth as one of the five thugs, and these thugs keep us bound in this cycle of wanting more and feeling discontent, feeling dis-ease. And in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a martial art, some of the ethos behind that is that disease enters through the mouth. Dis-ease enters through the mouth. So dis-ease, if we break that down, it's the absence of ease for the sake of this definition. And expanding on that, dis-ease doesn't just enter through the mouth, it enters through the nine gates. So it enters through the eyes. We see someone with a better house than us. We see someone with a better car than us. We see someone who has something that we deem desirable, notoriety, and we want it. So that's dis-ease. And dis-ease can enter through the ears from things that we hear, from something that someone may say, which makes us feel jealousy, anger, makes us slander another individual. So that's disease entering through the ears. And through the mouth, again, through desires of different types of foods, different types of delicacies, lots of fast food. It goes against our principles of simple living so that we can focus on meditation. Now, if the search for a bigger home or a better home or the next upgrade in whatever aspect isn't going to bring us happiness, and it isn't the home that Gurbani talks about us seeking, beyond our basic standards of living, if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we need safety, we need shelter, we need food. But a moderate level income can achieve that. Beyond that is this never ending thirst, this never ending desire for more, more, more. And that can really send somebody down a negative spiral. Beyond the basic necessities, anything else we could donate, we could give away, we could do things that will bring us real joy from those additional resources that we don't actually need. Now, finding your forever home. In Gurbani, it says, Moya jit kar jaiye, tit jeeve jeevan mar mar. That die and go to your true home while you're alive. So, how do you die? How do you die? Obviously, Gurbani is not telling us to physically die. So it's talking about the death of something while it's still alive. And in doing that, we can go back to our home. So if I touch my hand now and I say I'm touching my hand, who is that speaking? That's the mind. It's not the body speaking, it's the mind. It's the mind identifying the hand as being its own. And when someone dies, the body is still there. It's the mind that departs. So Gurbani is talking to the mind. It's the mind that has to die, and the body continues to live, and the mind, once dead, resides in its home. So how do you kill the mind? What are the nishaniya? What are the insignias of a mind that has died? And how do you do it? So in Gurbani it says, Shabad mare so mar rahe fir mare na duji var. So if you die in the Shabad, you don't have to be born again. So this is telling us that the way to die, the method, the technique, because there's a technique for everything that we do. If you train, there's a technique. If you do weightlifting, if you feed a baby, whatever you're doing, there's a technique for everything in life. So the technique for dying is through the Shabad. The next Pangti is Shabad Mere Dis Nij Garvasa. So the person who dies through the Shabad then resides in his true home, then gets the real house, then gets the really nice big house that has everything in it that you could ever want. And that's the home of the mind, that's a home inside our body. And that is found through the Shabad. So how do you die? It can't be a physical death that Gurbani is talking about, because it says, Jit Jeevan Daya Mar Mar. So it's not physical death. And how can the mind die? So something I was listening to today was talking about how there's no technique known to man outside of Gurmat to kill the mind, for the thoughts to stop. Simran meditation is the only way to achieve a thoughtless state. And some people do it via drugs or try to achieve that state via drugs. Some people do all sorts of efforts to try and get a break from their mind because their mind is causing them so much turmoil and so much dis-ease. But the way that Gurbani teaches is through Simran, through the Shabad, through Simran, we can kill the mind. Now, what is a sign that the mind is alive? So if you're having thoughts, like I said, my hand, that's a thought. That is an example that the mind is very much alive. And what is the sign that someone is deceased? So, in a worldly sense, if someone's deceased, you see them lying there, the body is still there, but the eyes are closed, the mind has left the body. So, when you kill the mind through the Shabad, when you close your eyes, when you concentrate on the Guru Mantra, when you repeat the Guru Mantra, and you attune your mind to the sound, you continually bring your mind back to the sound of your voice and you make it follow, you make it in sync and in focus and in concentration with that Guru Mantra. The thoughts begin to cut down. And even a few minutes in a thoughtless state takes us into another state, which is what we want to do. We want to achieve a state where we're killing our thoughts. What Gurbani says, Vichar mare tare tare altijuna ave, kill your thoughts and you will not have to be reborn again. As we said in the Shabbat earlier, kill your thoughts, attached to the Shabbat, and you can have vasa, you can have residence in your true home. So the only way to switch off this mind is through the Gurbantar. And the way to repeat the Gurbantar, the way to do Shabad Abhyas that Gurbani teaches is Tunme Dhyan, Dhyan Mein Janya. So you put your attention in the sound of your voice. Your mind wanders, you bring it back to the sound of your voice. Your mind wanders, you perhaps do Simran slightly louder or slightly faster. Loud and fast enough so that you can listen to your own voice. So a great example, a great simile that has been used in the past is that when you're listening to someone having a conversation, your mind, if the conversation is engrossing, won't wander. But it wanders when you're trying to do Gurbani Vichar, when you're trying to read Gurbani, when you're trying to do Simran. So the whole game is to make the mind listen to the recitation of the Guru Mantra and bring your attention back to the sound of your voice. You shouldn't be able to hear other people's voices if you're doing it in Sangat. You should attune your mind so much so that you can only hear your own voice until you stop being able to hear anything, until your mind goes to its home or begins to go to its home. So this was a short presentation on buying a house. Buying a house is important. It's important to have a nice place to live. It's important to feel comfortable. It's important to have worldly things, but those will not bring us happiness. Beyond a certain standard of living, all that will happen is our anxieties will increase because we'll now be a target for getting burgled. We'll now be a target for our car getting scratched. We'll now be a target for greater stresses through greater bills, keeping up with the Joneses, greater taxes, all of these types of things. So the benefit, the joy out of life comes from giving and comes from finding our own home, our real home, our eternal home. In Gurbani, it says, Dada dera e nahi, jed dera te jan. That this is not your home, that real house of yours. Find that, become acquainted with that. So let's all make an effort to find our real home. Let's do Simran before we go to sleep each night, or whatever time you can find in the day, and attune our mind to the sound of our voice and make residence in our true home. During this presentation, I've made multiple mistakes. Please forgive me for these mistakes. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my teacher, Bhai Deputy Singh from Gurdwara Gurgyan Anjan, and above all, Guru Granth Sahib Ji, who's blessed me with a way out, a way to stop these thoughts, and a way to go to my true home. Bol Chukma, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.